When death came for him, he didn't run. He didn't beg. He poured himself a glass of wine and prepared his revenge. In the year 66 AD, Rome stood as the most powerful and most decadent empire the world had ever known. A civilization stretching from the shores of Britain to the sands of Egypt. But beneath its magnificent marble facades and golden palaces, something dark and deeply rotten was quietly growing. A corruption so pervasive that no amount of beauty could conceal it forever. A world where pleasure had become the only law worth following, where excess knew no limits, and where the very line between civilization and decadence had been completely erased. And at the very center of this dangerous, glittering world, surrounded by ambition, corruption, and blind excess, there was one man who stood apart from all the rest. His name was Gaius Petronius Arbiter, and in a city filled with emperors, senators, and self-proclaimed gods, his would be the name to survive the ages. To Emperor Nero himself, Petronius was the ultimate authority on taste, beauty, and refinement. The one man in all of Rome whose judgment truly mattered. He alone decided what was truly elegant and what was hopelessly vulgar. A single word from Petronius could make or destroy a reputation overnight. While senators scrambled for power and generals fought for glory, Petronius lived entirely by his own rules, answering to no one, not even to the emperor. By day, while the rest of Rome chased power and influence, Petronius slept peacefully in his luxurious villa, surrounded by silence, cool marble, and the scent of rare perfumes. But when darkness fell over the city, he emerged to reign over the most exclusive and hedonistic circles of Rome, the undisputed master of the night. He was refined in every gesture, deeply cynical beneath his effortless charm, and dangerously intelligent, the kind of man who could see through anyone's mask in an instant. A man who understood, better than anyone alive, the fleeting nature of both pleasure and power, and who knew that even the greatest empires are built on borrowed time. But behind the charm, the wit, and the lavish nights, very few people in Rome suspected that Petronius was harboring a deeply dangerous secret. Alone, in the silence of his private chambers, far from prying eyes and palace spies, he was quietly writing something extraordinary, something that would outlast them all. A work so brutally honest, so vivid in its detail, and so fearless in its satire, that it would survive the fall of Rome itself and endure for 2,000 years. That extraordinary work is known today as the Satyricon, one of the most remarkable and scandalous texts to have survived from the ancient world. It is widely considered one of the very first novels in the entire history of Western literature, a work that was centuries ahead of its time in both form and daring. A wild, chaotic, and deeply irreverent journey through the dark underbelly of Roman society, through taverns, back alleys, banquets, and the restless, dangerous streets of the empire. And the most celebrated episode of the entire Satyricon is the outrageous, unforgettable banquet hosted by a man named Trimalchio, a scene that still astonishes readers to this day. Trimalchio was a former slave who had risen from nothing to become fabulously wealthy, a man who possessed everything money could buy, except the one thing it cannot: taste. Crude, loud, and desperately eager to appear sophisticated, Trimalchio threw the most excessive banquet anyone had ever seen, a feast designed to astonish, but destined to reveal his true nature. What followed was a spectacle of pure, unapologetic vulgarity, a grotesque display of absurd luxury that exposed everything rotten at the heart of Rome's obsession with wealth and status. Servants dressed in elaborate theatrical costumes, some as gods, others as mythical creatures, paraded through the hall, carrying enormous silver platters piled high with dishes that defied all reason. A massive roasted boar was carried in on a silver platter, wearing a gladiator's helmet, its belly sliced open to release a cascade of live thrushes and sausages into the air. Wine flowed without end, the finest vintages poured from enormous amphorae, while the guests grew louder, more reckless, and more hopelessly intoxicated with every passing hour. And there, placed deliberately at the very center of the lavish table, Surrounded by all that excess and noise sat a small articulated skeleton, made entirely of polished silver. A chilling reminder, placed right there among the wine and the laughter, that death comes for everyone in the end, no matter how rich, how powerful, or how celebrated they may be. Through this grotesque and unforgettable feast, Petronius was doing something far more dangerous than simply telling a story. He was holding up a mirror to the face of Nero's Rome. With merciless precision and razor-sharp wit, he revealed a society slowly drowning in its own wealth, consumed by vanity, and hollowed out by a deep and irreversible moral emptiness. But writing such a brutally honest portrait of Roman society came at a terrible price. In Nero's Rome, truth was the most dangerous weapon of all. Slowly, poisoned by whispers from jealous rivals and scheming courtiers, the emperor turned against the man he had once trusted and admired above all others. Petronius had become a threat, and then, without warning, on an ordinary Roman morning, the fatal order arrived, delivered by an imperial messenger and sealed with Nero's own crimson seal. Petronius, the arbiter of elegance, was commanded to do what so many of Nero's enemies had been forced to do before him, to take his own life. Most men, upon receiving such a death sentence from the most powerful man on earth, would have collapsed in terror, begged for mercy, or tried desperately to escape. But Petronius was not most men. He chose to face his own death with the same extraordinary elegance, the same effortless grace, with which he had lived his entire life. He made a decision that would be remembered for centuries. He would transform his final hours on Earth into his greatest and most unforgettable performance. Death itself would become his masterpiece. He approached the end slowly, deliberately, and with absolute composure, refusing to rush, refusing to panic, savoring every remaining moment as though time itself belonged to him alone. He gathered his closest and most beloved friends around him, continued dining as though nothing had changed, and listened to poetry being read aloud by the soft glow of candlelight. Through it all, he remained perfectly calm, entirely composed, and completely in control, never once losing his dignity, never once betraying the slightest trace of fear, until the very end. But before the end came, in the quiet stillness of his final hours, Petronius sat down one last time at his writing desk and composed one extraordinary final document. It was a devastating, detailed account of the emperor's most shameful secrets, every vice, every cruelty, every hidden depravity that Nero had tried so desperately to keep concealed from the world. With steady hands, Petronius sealed the document in wax and gave orders for it to be delivered directly to the emperor. A final message that Nero would never be able to ignore. It was his final, most exquisite act of defiance, the last word of a dying man, aimed with perfect precision at the most powerful ruler on the face of the earth. And so, even in death, especially in death, Gaius Petronius remained exactly what he had always been, the one and only true arbiter of taste. 2,000 years have passed since that night, and yet his words still endure. A timeless reminder that the most powerful weapon in this world is not brute force, but fearless honesty, exquisite taste, and unbreakable dignity. Thank you for listening to Petronius' story. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a like, write a comment on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates on future publications. Thank you.